You are watching a master at work.
Yes.
What's going on?
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. That beat is hard.
Love that beat.
I don't have no bars in me, you know what I mean? I have no rap in me, but
It's all good. That beat is good enough.
That beat is hard. It's hard. Listen, welcome. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for listening to another episode of Behind the Figures podcast with the restaurant scientist. I am Jason Wallace, and I am the restaurant scientist. And on this platform, we talk candidly about the economics impact of food service and Blacks within the food service realm. On one of my earlier episodes, I had two chefs on. Brandon, what's Brandon's last name?
Walker.
Brandon Walker from Essie Mays in Poughkeepsie, New York, and chef farmer Matthew Raiford from Brunswick, Georgia. And on that episode, Matthew Raiford exposed me to what he was doing on a farm that has been in his family since the 1800s. And his passion and knowledge, agricultural knowledge, is phenomenal in reference to sustainability and organic farming and the ability to link Black farmers with Black restaurants and a distribution channel that we're working on together from Brunswick, Georgia to Poughkeepsie, New York. And during that episode, Matthew and I said that, we were going to get together and I was going to take a trip down to Brunswick so I can really see firsthand what he was doing and what his vision was. And let me tell you, I did that. I took that trip last week.
Yes, sir.
And had four of the most educational and inspirational, phenomenal days with Matthew. His hospitality was incredible. Clearly, he's a chef. He cooked for me. Just really learning some history about him, his family, and more importantly, how we can tie that in going forward to build some generational wealth and opportunities. So without any further ado, I want to thank Chef Farmer Matthew Raiford for coming to the show again.
I'm here.
What's happening, brother?
Bruh, I'm doing well. There are no complaints today, really. I mean, there's so many other things we could be complaining about. I'll keep two complaints in my pocket in case I need to pull them out later. But for the most part, I'm breathing, I'm living.
Yes.
I feel, while I was listening to you, it kind of like struck me that how often we say to each other, yeah, man, I'm going to catch up with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to come through one of these days. And it never happens. I've been guilty of that myself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so when you called me like a week later and was like, hey, I can't really make it right now, but can we make it like in the first couple of weeks of the new year? And I was like, sure. You don't need to pack no coat because it's still warm. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And for us to just have that time to fellowship and, bring camaraderie together and, sit around and laugh and talk for those 4 days was as much a like highlight for the beginning of my year, as much as what you just said it was for you. It really sparked some thought processes on things that could be done better, that don't exist, that need to exist, and that have existed before, and that I'm not here at this point in time to say we should have did this. I'm more like, hey, we haven't, and we got a chance to do it, and we got people that we can talk to get us into these into the game in a different way. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's just start right there, Chef. Let's unpack, from the time I arrived, he had it laid out. Every day was extremely productive. We started, I don't know how deep we can go into.
We can go as deep as you want. There's there's nothing hidden in this conversation, my man.
All right. So, we met with a very good brother, Mr. Travis.
Mm-hmm.
And, Travis, we sat down and we broke bread and and really started to explain to him who we are as a collective force of, you know, of magical people.
Right.
And
And
he didn't, yeah, he didn't have a clue. But so, you know, walk my listeners through, you know, step by step how we kind of
definitely.
you know,
Well,
dove right into
so
the economics of it.
Yeah, it kind of started off with this conversation where you and I were, you know, just talking about needs, like the things that we wish as younger chefs had at our fingertips, and what is actually at our fingertips now we can help that next level, the next generation to be able to have. And I think the conversation also came up while we were talking was that, you know, you culinary school and you hear, you know, you have the best this and you got to connect with your farmer and you got and no more than, you know, 30 days after you finish that trip, you're, you know, sitting in the office ordering only through the computer into to some big box places.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Let's just believe that. But all that food comes from a farm. So everybody farm to table, if you ask me. I've never touted that I was some kind of farm to table chef, right?
Right.
But I've realized that the traceability of where my food comes from, that's where there's a difference.
Right.
The difference is I can go right up from where I am right now and 15 minutes from where I am right now and get pork belly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can go a couple of other few minutes and this is going to segue into a couple of other few minutes and get fresh shrimp.
Yeah.
So the deal was we got in the car, I picked up Jason from the airport and I said, hey, I was like, you know, have you ever been down this way before? And when you said, yeah, you know, I've been down this way, but I haven't really been in this way, like to see agriculture or restaurants or any of that. I've just kind of, you know, drove through. That's what most people do, right?
Right.
And the first spot I took you to was a seafood spot to get fresh shrimp.
Fresh shrimp.
And
$4 a pound.
Yeah, $4 a pound.
Fresh shrimp.
A pound, 21.20s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
21. And we walk in and that look that you had on your face when you said, that sounds say $4. And I said, yeah. He was like, man, I gotta see these shrimp. And I knew where your head was, and there was nothing wrong with that, right? When we walked in the door and that lady just kind of like took that little like a dowel and stuck it in the water and just pulled through and pulled up all these shrimp, laid them up there. You were like, wait, show me that one more time. You know, and so, you know, I can trace where that shrimp came from. I know that they pulled that shrimp in when we rolled in just that day. That came off the docks that day.
And just so my listeners know, on the sign outside it says "until we run out." Like when, like this is what we have, and when it's gone, it's gone, and we'll go fishing tonight, and we'll come back tomorrow, and we'll do it all over again.
Do it all over again, because that's the reality of our food system, right? When we talk about local doesn't mean that we have it 24/7 every hour of the day,
right?
And just to see that and know that we can get, you know, 21 count shrimp, that when for some of the listeners that might not be in the industry, that means for every pound of shrimp, you're going to get 20 to 21 shrimp, basically, is what it means. And knowing that it just came out of the ocean. And then when I showed you, like, here's the 3 mile mark, like when you go out the 3 mile mark, away from the estuaries where the shrimp start off at, that you get larger shrimp. And so I was able to kind of like show you that. And I think that kind of really sparked the conversation of like, why doesn't more people know that this exists?
Right.
Why don't people know that this could actually, and that's because, you know, folks have allowed monopolies to happen. They've allowed they've allowed we want the best, but we want it, and I'm using the right word, cheapest. We don't want it inexpensive. We want it cheap, cheap. And then, and it's all about profit, right? And I get it, like we do, but how much does one person, one family, one organization need?
Right.
Not when everybody else is below the very top is starving,
Right. Exactly.
So that initial thing was just to kind of show you what was available in the area. And
Right.
as we were driving, I started to slow the car down. And he was like, what's going on? And I said, look over there. And he was like, bison? And I was like, yeah, it's bison, right?
Exactly.
And so,
bison farm.
Right, a full bison farm, right? And so I was like, hey, well, if we have time while we're here, we'll come back. And then we went to the meeting with Travis. So we went to a local pizza spot, local owned pizza spot with they try their best and they do their best. Bromelli's, the Bromelli brothers, they do an amazing job with their staff. They keep their staff around during the vid, which is, that in and of itself. And they had a full staff. Remember when we walked in, they had a full staff, socially distanced. They'd already did the tables, but he's still paying his people. He's still doing business. And I was like, well, the place ain't packed. He still got a full staff because what do we do? How do we make these things happen? So we sit down with Mr. Stiegel, Mr. Travis Stiegel, and we start talking about our food system and how it, we're talking, we always talk about the broken food system and the injustices that are out there. And that's important. It's super dope important for us to always understand food policy and where things are and all that. But there's something that Miss Karen Washington said to me last night. And she said, we have to stop and become unapologetic about what not only our needs are, but how we're going to take it back. We have to become unapologetic about it. And then we have to move to make it happen.
Right.
Because you and I, we could get on this and talk about it, get off, all your listeners here and be like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Right.
But 2 years from now, somebody else will be like, yeah, we need to do this. Ooh, that sounds good.
No action.
So, right. And so us meeting with Travis was really about us not talking, but making actual movement.
Right. Now, Travis, just so you know, Travis is in the economic development space.
Yeah, definitely. And so we were trying to figure out, like, where do we figure out the jump off spot is, right? Because you have a home base you're creating for it to act successful. So if anything falls apart from somewhere, everybody can come back to a centralized location.
Right.
And so, you're the restaurant scientist. So you were like, I need to understand the economics of what it takes to get a warehouse. And, how do we start moving this food up and down? Like, where's that concept come from?
Absolutely.
And then we were talking to Travis, and the first thing he said was like, well, y'all need a warehouse so that as you're aggregating the food into a place, it can get sorted, distributed, put onto the truck and moved.
Right.
What's super funny about that was, and I'm jumping ahead to the day you left. So the day you left, as I was driving back to Brunswick, I saw 4 food company trucks that weren't a US Foods or a Cisco or a Cheney Brothers or a PFG or a Monarch or any of that. None of those. These were trucks that were like from New Jersey and New York that were food trucks that were bringing food down. And I was like, wait, what is this? Right. And I realized they were down to Florida to drop off whatever they had up there and picking up things like tomatoes.
Loading up, back.
And loading up and bringing back. That's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is being in control of our own food system, but not to the point to where it's like Black people need to have their own food and white people need to have their own food. That is what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is understanding that most of our Black farmers are small scale farmers, which is under 100 acres, right? But 100 acres is a lot of friggin' food.
Right.
So, and then a lot of them aren't even using all 100 acres to farm on because there's no outlet for where the food would go or who needs it, right? So all of a sudden, and I don't know if you can kind of see behind me, right? So so I know you remember all the eggs.
The eggs, absolutely.
Right. So this is you've been gone a week. They don't stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you ain't here and eat eggs don't mean that they stop. And so that's the thing. Like, how do we get up to this scale? So I'll use the conversation that we talked about, just because you're a numbers guy, so you're gonna get this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, you need, and this is small. This is very, very small. So when I worked on Little Simon's Island, it was accessible only by boat. It's a private island.
Okay.
I was executive chef over there for 2 years. We went through, on average, 70 dozen eggs a week total in all of our cooking, with no more than 32 guests on the island at any given point in time. Never more than 32.
Wow.
70 dozen eggs. Okay. So let's put into perspective, how do we get to 70 dozen eggs? It takes 125 chickens to get 70 dozen eggs consistently every day of the year.
Every day. 120. Okay.
Right. Understand, I was just talking about feeding my 32.
Right.
Small island.
Right.
So how is it that I could ever think, what would it take to feed 80,000 people? How many eggs?
Right.
So when you start doing that kind of math, and then all of a sudden you go, wait, well, how do small scale farmers get to eggs? Right? At that point, you need to be ginormous, right? Or you need to be a co-op of folks that are doing eggs. Right. And so what we're talking about is folks having ownership in not only what they create, but also ownership in the company, also ownership in all the other things, so that they're not only making money when they sell their dozen eggs. Right. They need to be making money. I think the word you used was, if we're not making money in our sleep, we're technically not, we're just working.
We're not doing it right.
There has to be some vehicles that's moving it. So what happens when we need trucks? I look at all these black truck drivers out there. I'm like, man, it's not like there aren't black truck drivers. That's what we were just going for, right? There aren't black truck drivers. Like, every time I pull into a Pilot or a Love's or whatever, place packed. Right. Like, black folks driving trucks. Right. It's not like that's a new business for us. Farming isn't a new business for us. Cooking isn't a new business for us. So why aren't we taking those things that we know how to do and coalescing them into something that can be something not for, I really like, Kevin and I actually talked about this one time before, like, you, like me and my children. Right. But it needs to be me and my children's children's children for that thing to really progress, right? But then what we got to look at is, there was 4 of us there, right? There was Tia McDonald was there, Kevin Mitchell was there, Jason was there, and Matthew was there. So our children's children's children, we should have it set, right? So that they can say what's going on with the food system 4 generations from now. Right. Not sit back and be like, shoot, I don't know how mama got them eggs. Right. And I'm not saying that all our children are going to go into that part of the industry. Right. The thing is, they got to understand how to navigate traceability, so that it doesn't just disappear. And also the fact that there's so much food. Like, I talked to you about over 100 farms that are between here and Poughkeepsie that are black owned. Right. We talking black Angus cows. We talking rice. We talking peas. We talking bananas. We talking tomatoes, squash. Right. Like, there's actually a sister that's up in, I believe, New Jersey, that has her own farm, is doing her own butchery. I got to find out who she was. She was on the Juneteenth thing that I did last year, but she's up your way. So, and she doing lamb. Come on now. Right. So why aren't we buying our lamb from her? Right. Exactly. Right? In Atlanta, we have a High Hog Farm, Keisha and Warren Cameron. They're fiber farmers. What is that? Fiber. Wow. So remember when I showed you the French Angora rabbit that I have out there? Yeah, in the back, that's how we get French Angora sweaters, or from French Angora rabbits, right? So here's an educational piece, right? But we got black folks that are fiber farmers. They shaving sheep. They coloring it with indigo and hibiscus. And that's old ways, right? And right now people are, giving it a new name, regenerative agriculture. Other people call it just sustainable. Some people call it biodynamic. But all we're doing is doing the exact same thing our ancestors were doing.
Right.
That's all we're doing.
Right.
And the
thing
is that we have to
ran away from it because of the negative. You know what I mean? That was the last thing we wanted to do after slavery is be farmers, even with cooks.
Oh yeah.
But now there's a reality that we have to realize that one, we're good at it.
Yeah.
Two, it's necessary for us to take back and own every part of that distribution, right? From the farm to the restaurant and collectively, manage that power and understand how powerful that will be.
That will be. And
we
that
come
it is.
like this instead of, like individual.
Yeah, right. Definitely. And just to let your listeners know, that's just day one.
yeah. That was
what I'm saying. By the time day two came around, we were talking about.
We went down to Bluffton day two, right? Is that the day?
Yeah, we went to Bluffton day two, right? So then we go to Bluffton, and that's South Carolina. That's about an hour and 20 minutes from Brunswick, Georgia. So just so the people also start like realizing where places are, because a lot of times people are like, and that's so far away. Like, give you all, if anybody's listening, I'm getting ready to say, I want you to really like dial in how close we actually are to each other, but we act like it's another planet.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
From my house to Brandon Walker's restaurant, Essie's, is 14 hours if I was to drive it.
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, New York, 14 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to pass 1-2 hours on each side of the highway over 100 farms that are Black owned.
This is the conversations we were having.
Right.
And what does that mean? And how
does that mean? That's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food.
That's a lot of Black folks that are growing, that are doing it, the hands all in the soil, saving seeds and all that kind of good stuff. And all that has become a money-making machine for other people. We haven't, we've been saving seeds. Black folks been saving seeds since before it was fashionable. And the reason being is because they wasn't letting us buy good seed. They was giving us moldy seed, the seed that came from whenever, right?
Right.
So we've always been saving seed. That's not us. You know what I'm saying? And so when you say take back, yes, you're right. We need to take back that these things that not only were we doing, but the only reason they have a lot of seeds that they have right now is because of what we did do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We brought them here and we saved them.
Right.
We planted them and cultivated them, right? Harvested the whole shit.
And so check it. I just learned last night.
I want my peas back.
I know, right? I want my peas back. I just learned last night. I was on a piece for Eco Farm, and part of just an amazing group of indigenous people, BIPOC folks that were talking to the rest of the world just about here's some new thing. Here's a different way to think about this, right? And there was a sister that was on there, Asian sister that was on there, that explained to us that watermelon radish, you familiar with watermelon radishes, right?
Yep.
Is an Asian vegetable. Watermelon radishes are an Asian vegetable.
You froze up, Chef. You froze. Say it again.
My bad. Watermelon radish are an Asian vegetable. And the price of watermelon radish is outside of the price mark that you would normally buy a watermelon radish for. Right? Because it's been renamed. It's not called a watermelon radish in Asia. But they've taken that seed, coined it watermelon radish, and now you can only get it in fine dining restaurants. It's got that kind of a price tag on it. Right. So that was something new I learned. I learned something new about food every day, and I look for it. Okay. Because the more knowledge I have about it, the better I can understand it for myself, but the better I can help someone else understand it. You know what I'm saying? And why we need to pull these things closer to vets, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chef, talk to me about soil. Like, since you brought up the seed, soil, your soil, what you know about your soil. How do you understand what components, what nutrients are in your soil, and which components, nutrients are not in your soil? And what are you doing from a research and development point of view to better knowledge of that? And
you know, it's funny because you and I were joking about, you know, you being a restaurant scientist, and I guess I'm starting to become like the soil guy, right?
Yeah.
Because I started to realize more and more. There were things that I learned as a child and being young, but didn't understand it, and then realized that there are things that are being touted right now as new and cutting edge and all that. That's always been done. So when I grew up, you put oyster shells around the roots of anything mining or things like that. I didn't understand that that's part chitin in the soil that eats nematodes. And so what I'm getting at right now is that our soil is alive. Soil is alive. It's a living organism. Now, underneath my fingernails, I got dirt. Okay, there ain't nothing living underneath there right now, and I need to wash it out. But I was out there. I was planting carrots, and actually some French out there in the beds that I have out there that right before I came in. But yeah, so one of the things that I'm trying to make sure that I dial in is the living organisms that are inside the soil, because if we just like Black and brown folks, if we continue to marginalize what has been keeping things going, we're going to end up having nothing, and it's going to be dirt. So I'm trying to make sure that I understand what the living organisms are inside of my soil so that I don't lose those things, right? I want to treat them better. I want to feed them better. You know, they say when you know better, you're supposed to do better. So now I've learned that my soil needs worm compost. I have worm bins going. I have black soldier fly bin going. I have a static bin of just whatever food scraps or whatever. And then I also have another bin that's only used, or not just a bin, but a very large area, that's only horse manure and fish scraps. Now, a lot of people might be like, oh my God, dude, just that farm has to stay. Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. I literally remember when I pulled it up,
you're
like, man, you want me to
stuck in my face like, smell this. I was like, then I smelled it. I'm like, don't smell like it. Smell like soil.
Yeah,
there's a difference
like soil, right? Because that's what it was, you know?
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, so I have those things going on. I'm actually taking a and hopefully I keep pushing. I thought I'd already be finished by now, but a lot's been going on. But right now, you know, I have a microscope right here in my office. I'm learning how to like figure out what the different organisms are that are in the soil. So I can figure out what's bad, what's good, what else I need to add. And I'm still following, you know, like my grandmama and my nana, my great grandmother, my grandfather, all of them have farmed. You know, I showed you, you know, where like if you can imagine growing up and looking at peanuts and hogs and chickens and crookneck squash and watermelon and okra, like I saw that grown in like 4, 5, 6 acres worth of that food. You know, which is a lot. And just to even put that into like craziness, day 3, I say to Jason, hey, you know, I know I've kind of shown you a few things around, but I need some help. You know, I need some real help. He was like, man, whatever you need, I got you. You know, I was like, bet. I said, I need to go plant 2,000 onion sets for we're creating a new farm, not to take away from where I am right now. And this will be the first time anybody's ever heard about it is today. I'm creating something called Buchan seed, which is Yoruba for blessed seed. And my goal is to plant 1 acre of rice and 1 acre of Sea Island red peas. And one of the reasons that I'm planting it where I'm planting it is it's closer to where the South Carolina and Georgia line are, so that we can start harvesting it with the Gullah Geechee Co-op that's on St. Helena, and be able to get those things into. Actually, there's one of our meetings on when we went up to Bluffton was we actually met with a local market that's developing right now that, like they said, they're realizing that the amount of produce that they need to run a successful store far surpasses what's actually available, and they want to try to be as local as possible. And I really liked how you stepped in, Jason, was like, yeah, that sounds really good, but are you ready to be seasonal?
Right.
Like, are you ready to, like, if you're gonna do it, like, understand it that there's getting ready to be a real teaching component,
right?
That most people don't understand. The only reason you get tomatoes all year long is because most of those tomatoes don't come from around the corner.
Right. Absolutely.
And you need a hot climate. You need some things going on. So I think that also opening up our minds to understanding that, one of the other things is, I mean, you and I look like this at 50.
Right.
You know
and
what
it ain't easy. Let me tell y'all.
It ain't easy.
It ain't easy at home, children.
Right. Do not try this at home.
Yeah, this shit ain't easy. Right?
But and it ain't like, oh yeah, they just stay in the gym. That's what I always say I'm farm fit. Yeah. I'm farm fit because I eat well too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't like I'm sitting down eating steaks. You know, we eating steaks. We eating, but I also just had a veggie pizza. But it was all fresh vegetables. The dough they made in house. So I'm trying to make sure, it's that what I'm saying, I'm doing also.
Absolutely.
As much as I can. And, I remember, by the time day 4, we were sitting there like.
Well, you can go back up to, I need these people to understand. I was on the farm.
Oh, yeah. Let me back up. I apologize. Yeah.
I had the hoe. I was, I had a tool.
Yeah, tool. Yeah, let's say what it was. So don't look like getting no trouble.
Yeah, it was a tool. It was the hoe, right?
Yeah. So I remember I said,
whatever you told me to cut or whatever. I don't know. I was moving dirt.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you got that phone call, right? You got a phone call. You were on the phone call, and so I had walked into the space, and I started, just doing what I do, because in my head, I know what I'm doing. It's like, if I walked into one of your kitchens and you just started, chopping it up, which would be the same with me, it's because I already know what I want to do, Right. And when you got off the call, you walked in and was like, okay, what you need me to do? Because you all on your knees in the dirt, and hey, how can, or the soil? I mean, you brought me all the way out here. What we gonna do? And I said, here's what we're gonna do first. And he was like, oh, that's all, we just gonna clip these tops? And I said, well, this is so. And then I went into explaining, like, we're clipping these tops not just because they were yellow, but we didn't want the onion to shoot all of its energy into the top, to grow the top. We wanted a nice bulb, so we wanted to shoot more of its energy into building that bulb. And so then we started talking about it, like, oh, well, then how do we get scallions? And so we started talking about, well, we got to plant them closer, less than 2 inches, or no more than 2 inches apart, blah, blah, blah. So then it became back to mathematics, right? Where we also went in, and here's something I'm explaining to you, or explain to everybody. No matter what you are doing, every day is a teachable moment. Every day. And the reason that I say that is because I paid for those at those onion sets, right? Dollars went out the door. And when you finish that first set, I paid for them. And so you turned to me and said, hey, did you pay for all of these? And I said, yeah, I paid for them. You were like, man, you got gypped. And I was like, I got gypped? And you were like, yeah. And you started counting all the ones that weren't onions, that were just like spots. just had soil in it, right?
So let me set it up though for you, Chef.
Yeah,
So
set it up.
what
Set
he's
it up.
talking about is when he buys the sets, they call them onion sets, like you plant one at a time. They come in like a styrofoam kind of container that is 18 across, 24 deep, right? So each one of those, so he pays X amount of dollars for one, and he had 9 of them, right? It was 9 or 6.
Right. It was 6. It was 6.
Six.
It was 6.
Yeah, 6 of them. So my job was to take the hoe and create the space so that you plant them right below the soil so that they're not too deep.
Right.
And so I was putting them down, and then him and Chef Tia were actually putting the not the compost in it to help them strengthen the roots, and then packing the dirt around it. So now go ahead. So what he's saying is, so there was 18 by 24. Right. So by the time I was done, there were sections of it that weren't plantable.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. So then when you said that, I was like, what do you mean? And like when you're in the middle of something, somebody goes, man, I'm trying to figure out, Chip, how did I get, like, do you know something about onion sets? And he goes, man, you got 90 something of these that you didn't really get an onion from. And I was like, what? And so I was like, well, hopefully that's just an anomaly. That's not all of them. So now we're on to the second one. And then we're on to the third one. And then I sit them all down, and out of those three, we had an average of 90 that we had paid for that weren't there. An average of 90 in each one of them. So that's 270 onions that I didn't have. Well, if I did the math originally, right, based on what I thought I had planted, I also do the calculation of how much money I believe I'm going to make.
Yep.
So if I did that without having counted every last one of those, because when you look at it, kind of like, yeah, we pulled them all. We planted all that. We planted 2,000 of them.
Right, right.
No, we didn't.
No, not at all.
Out of each 1,000
you paid for 2,000 of them.
Right. Out of each 1,000 that we thought we planted, we were short 270.
Yep.
So when you're starting to like figure out your money and everything else, well, what happens if I don't tell or I don't say anything? I just like, man, I ain't gonna buy nothing from them again because they shorted me. Well, they looked down at the thing just like I did. It looked full. Right. Right. But what became the learning piece for me, one, I need to make sure I record. I need to make sure I reach back out to them and say, hey, here's the average was 90 in each one of these. Right.
His yield was 78%.
Right.
So that means that he's 78% down. He bought 100%, but he only planted 78%, which was because the other 22% weren't usable. So now he grows his onions and Mother Nature kicks in, right? So he's not going to get 100% yield out of what he planted. Right. So now you have the elements, you have Mother Nature, you have, deer eating whatever else. And now you started in the game at 78%. Now your yield is down to what?
50%.
50%.
Right.
That's the problem, which is why collectively as a team, you need, chef spreadsheets around you.
Right, chef spreadsheets. Right, definitely. But that's why I said everything's a teachable moment, because we also realize that we need to let our farmers know that we're working with that something like that can happen, so that they're making the correct calculations. Because if I actually was betting the money that I was getting ready to make this bomb, whatever, off of these onions, I'm already down 50%. How do I explain that? You can't explain that to mama. No. Mama need new shoes. You can't explain that to the babies. Absolutely. Babies need Pampers. But you 50% down and can't explain it. But I put in the work. I did what I was supposed to do. And so I'm also saying that that's life. Right. Whatever it is you're doing, you got to go back and double check everything. Did something get missed? Did this happen? And the reason being is because, you don't ever want to be 50% down at the end, because there's that oh shit factor that happens in life where you wake up one morning, you're like, oh, I got a flat tire. Yes, not only do you have a flat tire, you ain't got no money in your bank account.
Right.
And you already woke up late and 30 minutes late to work. So and you on your last strike anyway.
Right. No, absolutely.
You know?
So we got about 5 minutes, 6 minutes left.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes by, man. I told you, but you're gonna be a regular on this show, man. We're gonna do this again and again because you're a plethora of knowledge and information. But so just talk to us about the projects you have going on. I don't know if you want to talk about the restaurant, the soil.
Definitely.
Just bring us home for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, last 5 minutes, real quick. So Bressum Yam is the name of my cook. It's coming out May 11th. It is available for pre-sale right now on Amazon. And Bressum Yam means in Gullah Geechee, bless and eat. Or bless and eat my friends. And so I wanted to write a cookbook that talked about my heritage, talked about how I grew up, and talked about the food that I've always loved to eat and or cook. And then I am in the process right now of finishing a restaurant project called Sweet Georgia Juke Joint. And it's getting ready to open on Jekyll Island, Georgia. Fingers crossed, because anything can happen, but late February. So we're working really hard on that. And then from our meeting and collaboration, the Gritty Negro Coalition has decided that we are going to open up. I said it right.
That's right. That's what it is. That's what we do.
We've decided that we're going to open up our own apparel company. So we're getting ready to push forward. We already have the first set of aprons are going into production as we speak, something totally different, something that hasn't been seen before so far as aprons go. And we've just got finished designing chef shirts and pants, and shirts and pants that can be worn whether you're a farmer or a chef, that will work, that will be a workhorse kind of a project. But we are looking to be one of the first Black-owned chef apparel companies in the United States, and I think it's been called, when it's all said and done, the Strong Roots 9. And the reason there's a number in there is because my great grandfather Jupiter Gilliard bought 476 acres of land for $9 in taxes. So I'm gonna throw that number 9, SR9 is gonna be on there. So thanks to the conversation with you, Jason, and the conversation with Kevin and Chef Tia, I literally walked into a meeting on Monday, and when I walked out, they were like, "Okay, we're gonna get you the bottom line number and shoot it to your people." So apron was already going into production, and I just decided that there needs to be something that's not urban in thought process, but also urban chef farmer that's still sexy and cool, that folks can feel like, and one of the things that's gonna have, I'm not even wearing this, is a 511 shirt right here, in case y'all want to know, because 10 years in the military, I still want to rep, that I can carry a gun and stuff. But so one of the things is like pockets like this that you can just like put your iPhone in, put your notepad in, that kind of stuff. I've always liked those kinds of things, and chef clothes don't really have that easy accessibility. And we talked about like just sweating for no reason and not having any look away on it. You know what I'm saying? So, so we're really working on changing that. And and just so that everybody understands this, also that's listening really quick, is that we're designing it for an athletic build. So understand that it's designed for broad shoulders. It's designed for sisters with hips. You know what I'm saying? It's designed for, and to still be slimming if you want it. And if you need it because you got a little bit on you, that's no big deal either. But it fits. Not that you just look funky. So so the GNC, the Gritty Negro Coalition, is putting it down, and I appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate your man that's in the booth that's just like hooking us up, making sure we got the audio. And now I'm just looking.
Shout out to studios.
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm gonna shoot for by March is that I'm sitting next to you at that other mic. That's what I'm shooting for.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we can do that. We can do that. So let me tell you what my biggest takeaway from, I took away so much, but when I left, the love that we put as chefs into our food actually begins with the soil. You know what I mean? So, and there's a difference between soil and dirt. So, I'm hashtagging respect the soil. RTS. RTS, respect the soil. Because you respect the soil, then obviously when you get in the kitchen, we don't want no bad energy, no bad vibes in the kitchen.
Definitely.
You got attitude, get out of my kitchen with that. We only cook love in the kitchen. We only put love into the pots and pans.
There you go.
So, man, Matthew, my brother.
Jason, I appreciate you.
I need y'all to understand that, he came up with that chef farmer, right? CHEF. I've been capitalizing the F. ARMER.
ARMER.
Chef Farmer at
Chef Farmer Matthew at gmail.com.
Or at gmail.com.
Right. Or www.cheffarmermatthew.com. And, a matter of fact, Jay, look for me to bring you on to Jupiter's Almanac on Heritage Radio Network and talk about what you do as a restaurant scientist and putting all these wonderful people together. And what I really want you to talk about is Eat Okra.
EatOkra.com. Shout out Eat Okra.
Eat Okra.
Yeah, man. Yes. Y'all, if y'all don't know, you better ask somebody. Go download the app, EatOkra.com. Shout out to Anthony and Janique and the entire Eat Okra team.
Yes.
But yeah, we 300,000 downloads currently, and the goal is to get to 1 million downloads as soon as possible, hopefully by the end of the first quarter. So again, that's eatokra.com app. Go download it, support us, and we would appreciate that.
Definitely.
So, Matt, it's been truly a pleasure again. I want to thank you again. Much respect, admiration for your education, your knowledge, your passion, and your brotherhood.
Definitely.
My man. Marvin, drop that beat right there. We're going
to
dance it out. You know how we make 50 look good. Like, I'll tell you, shit ain't easy.
50.
Don't try this at home. Thank you, Cornerstone Business Lab, Cornerstone Production, and Cornerstone Media. Until we meet again. Power to the people.
A master at work.